Hello, and thank you for taking the time to listen to this presentation today, entitled Representation in Tennessee Public Schools, Analyzing the Diversity of Teacher and Student Populations. This presentation is intended for the superintendents of the state of Tennessee. As mentioned, I am speaking today to the public school superintendents across the state of Tennessee. Furthermore, following this presentation, I recommend that these superintendents pass forward this information to their district principals, recruiters, and hiring managers. The purpose of this presentation is to create awareness surrounding the student diversity growth in the state of Tennessee, and following this to prompt action that will help schools to better represent the populations that they serve. Ensuring representation in our schools is vital to student growth and well-being. This is no secret and has been studied and implemented over the years. As educators, we should strive for our schools to be full of literature and teachers who represent the demographics of a specific area. And we should strive to include a wide variety of perspectives and experiences in our school. As of 2019, 82.5% of all Tennessee public school teachers were white. This number has remained consistent within 1 to 2% above or below over the past few years. Diversity in the Tennessee teacher population is somewhat stagnant. But diversity in the Tennessee student population is growing. This number is already not a reflection of the student population, and in the years to come, this discrepancy will only increase. Let's examine the percentage of Tennessee public school teachers belonging to other racial ethnic groups. First, approximately 12% of Tennessee public school teachers are Black or African American. As you can see, this number has grown steadily over the past few years. Approximately 1.3% of Tennessee public school teachers are Hispanic or Latino. This number has grown very minimally over the past few years. And finally, approximately 0.4% of Tennessee public school teachers are Asian. This number has not grown at all over the past few years. And this graph only reaches 14%, and no racial group of teachers besides white exceeds this 14% in the state of Tennessee. There are additionally minority groups with Tennessee teacher populations that are so low that they were not even visible in the previous graph. So 0.1% of Tennessee teachers are American Indian or Alaska Native, and 0.1% of Tennessee teachers are Native Hawaiian or Pacific Islander. As is evident, diversity in the Tennessee public school teacher population is low. Now, it is important to consider that Tennessee's population in general is less diverse than other states. However, these numbers are not fully reflective of the student population in Tennessee, which will be discussed next and then compared. So, what about the student populations? An initial look at this graph verifies what I previously stated regarding the diversity of the state of Tennessee. Compared to other states, Tennessee has relatively lower demographic diversity. 63.4% of students in Tennessee are white, 24.1% are Black, 9.7% are Hispanic, 2.2 are Asian, 0.3 are American Indian or Alaska Native, and 0.2 are Hawaiian or Pacific Islander. So although some of these numbers may not seem high, the discrepancy between teacher population and student population is significant for several groups. The next chart will demonstrate this discrepancy with student population shown in blue and the teacher population shown in orange. So in Figure 8, I have outlined the diversity of the Tennessee public school population, comparing students in blue with teachers in orange. Most notably, the white, Black, African American, and Hispanic Latino populations are fairly unbalanced. While only 63.4% of students are white, 82.5% of teachers are white throughout the state. While 21.4% of students are Black, which is nearly 1/4 of the students, only 12% of teachers are Black. And while 9.7% of students are Hispanic in Tennessee, which is nearly 1/10, only 1.3% of teachers are Hispanic or Latino. Now, I want to be sure to state that I do not believe race or demographic proportions are indicators of how well a school will perform or how good a school is. I believe that any person can teach any student. It is not about race or appearance in the slightest. Rather, what I am suggesting through this presentation is that better representation should be implemented because it improves the learning experience for students. According to Beach, research suggests that racial representation in teachers is important for students because these teachers can share and empathize with their students' experiences. Students truly look up to teachers as mentors and as inspiration, and knowing that they perhaps came from the same background as some of their teachers can be assuring for them, particularly in low-income areas where populations face a lot of adversity. American University confirms this idea, contending that, quote, seeing is believing. And when students see themselves in school teachers, school leaders, and in their school curriculum, their confidence in their own abilities increases. Thus, I would like to transition now into the proposal for the superintendents of the state of Tennessee. First, following the statewide statistics and analysis I have provided here, each superintendent should investigate the discrepancy in teacher-student demographics within their own district. For those districts which have significant discrepancies, more emphasis should be placed on recruiting teacher candidates who accurately represent the district population. And while statewide analysis of teacher populations is the goal of this presentation, I would also like to suggest further steps and additional areas for investigation that are part of the mission toward improved representation. I recommend that superintendents and school leaders also examine and adjust the representation of literature selections and administrative figures within their districts. These elements are just as important as representations within the teacher population. I want to express my gratitude for your time today and encourage you to consider the most important purpose that we all share as educators, our commitment to the growth of students. For us to best support each and every one of our students, we must continue to look inwards, to examine the ever-changing demographics of our student populations, and to make changes to our own processes to best represent those that we serve. Thank you.